Get ready for a powerhouse of inspiration. Principal Baruti Kafele. A highly regarded educator and a transformational leader, Principal Kafele has spent over 20 years in New Jersey's urban schools, making a lasting impact as both a master teacher and a turnaround principal. Under his leadership, the mighty Newark Tech transformed from a low-performing school to one of America's best, as recognized by U.S. News and World Report 3 times. A recipient of the prestigious Milken Educator Award, Principal Kafele is one of the most sought-after voices in school leadership and equity. He's delivered over 3,000 keynotes, workshops, and seminars across the nation, authored 13 books, including 7 ASCD bestsellers, and continues to empower leaders through his live-streamed AP and New Principals Academy. Please join us in welcoming the extraordinary Principal Baruti Kafele.
And we are live. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to week 285 consecutively of the AP and New Principals Academy. Let me see who we got checking in this morning. We have some of y'all on here this morning, like as early as 10 o'clock, man. That does my heart well, man. I appreciate that. We got Michael Benton in Cincinnati, Ohio. Yolanda McKinney is down in Texas. Robin Snowden, and she's going to be defending her dissertation for her PhD at 9 o'clock Pacific time. So that's coming up. But man, think about it, y'all. And I know I'm doing shout outs, but when you got fam, meaning AP and New Principals Academy fam, and they getting ready to defend their dissertation, but see it not robbery to log on first, right? Just to log on first, just to be a part of the fam for a few minutes, and then go on and get that doctorate. And then next Saturday, we be on here calling her Dr. Robin Snowden. Harambe. Good stuff, man. Let's go. And much success to you, Robin. I know you got this, man. God got you too. Ronald Pugh, Cedar Hill, Texas. Dr. Sonia Matthew, NBCT, should be on next Saturday along with 2 others. We'll talk about that later, but we're looking forward to the return of Dr. Sonia Matthew. We got Mona Obermolak, and she's in Maryland, by the way. Mona Obermolak is down in Orlando. Fatima Nelson's in Pennsylvania. Constance Sherrod is in Pearl, Mississippi. Rodney Richardson's in Hampton, Virginia. Week 285. We got Kimberly Broughton. I think that's the other Kimberly, right? It's 2 of them. It's the one I don't know, and then it's the wife, right? So Grace Castaneda is in where you at this morning, Grace? You back home. You in Kyle, Texas. Where we at? We got AP Patrick Lawrence in Connecticut. I was in Connecticut the other day. We had a good time. We'll talk about it in a minute. Nadira Coley, Newark, New Jersey. We got big election coming up, Nadira. I ain't gonna be political on here. Just do the right thing. Lysandra Brackens, that's the gubernatorial race, y'all. 2 states in America got gubernatorials: Virginia and New Jersey. I'm getting ready to mail mine in early, man. I can't wait to vote. Lysandra Brackens, North Carolina. Dr. Rachel Edoweckett is in Maryland. I keep seeing her on social media. She's doing big things, man. Big things. I see you. Marsha Poe, San Diego, in the building. Leslie Akintunde is in Erie, Pennsylvania. Hassan Sabri down there in South Jersey holding it down. We got Principal Otis Kitchen II. He said good morning to everybody. September Devon Vance Daniels here in Jersey. Retired Principal Dr. McKeeva Jeter, Calumet City, Illinois. And as Dr. Sheikah Houston said this morning, I echo the same thing, how you keep us relevant out here, just making sure that the folks know that we are here. And that's always appreciated. And speaking of Dr. Sheikah Houston, her and Dr. Tammy Taylor, part of Create and Educate, the 2 of Create and Educate, just finished up. They come on at 10:30, preceded by Sean Hurd at 10 o'clock, myself at 10:55, and then we move on Sunday to, I didn't write that time down, man. I think it's 6 Eastern. PGP podcast, Josh Tovar and Dr. Madi Moreno. If I got that time wrong, I know that somebody will correct me, but I think it's 6 Eastern right? Trying to finagle it with the NFL games, you know. So here we go. We got John Hirix is in Denton, Texas. Annette McMahon is in Illinois. And there's Dr. Sheikah Houston. We got LaKenya Rowland is in the building. There's the Kimberly Broughton Kafele that I know. Well, Kimberly Broughton, and then we got married. We added that Kafele, right? So the queen of the castle. The castle. Here we go. We got Dina Freeman. Good to hear from you the other day, and appreciate you joining me on that NASSP webinar. I'll talk about that too. Tell your son I said hello. We got Chancellor Davis. Yeah, that was a good game last night. WNBA championships, Vegas Aces in the building. Asia Wilson and team in the building. That was a good win, man. That's a dynasty. We got Josh Tovar. Give me that time, Josh Tovar. What time y'all on the Sundays, man? You've been all over the map that I don't have it memorized, or I'll write it on the notes from the previous week, and then I throw those in the garbage when I'm finished going over them. So give us that time for the PGP podcast. Principal Kenyelle Session is in OKC. Good to see you. If you missed her, she was on recently. Jasmine Harris, same thing. She was on recently. California, Los Angeles. I'll be doing this session, the AP New Principals Academy from Los Angeles next Saturday, and then from Montego Bay the Saturday after that. So we will be on the road a little bit, and then we'll be back home. Josh said he's on fire. I'm on fire. I can't yell that no more, Josh, man. That stuff makes me feel like I'm gonna have a stroke. Tony McClenny is in Battle Creek, Michigan. I'm getting ready to wrap it up, y'all. We got Nasan Loler in Mississippi. Never saw that name. So Nason, or it could be Nason. I probably butchered it, but I'm just glad you're here. I never saw your name before, so glad you're here. Make sure you stay here with us. Stacy Joy is in Los Angeles as well. Jacqueline Harriet is in Nova Scotia. Brandon Key, Birmingham, Alabama is in the building. I think I'm gonna let me see if I see any more Jersey folks on here. I don't see no Jersey, so let me just get it started. I see Ty Feltman up there in the Bronx. Right, I don't know if you live in the Bronx or not, but I know you lead in the Bronx, right? So I'll be in touch with you real quick, Todd. I think I already got you in the schedule. I just didn't call you to tell you. So I'll be in touch with you soon. And I see Dr. Melissa Jones Chunu. So let me stop it right there with the good doctor. Let me say to everybody, good morning, greetings, welcome to week 285. What do I do? What do I say? Consecutively of the AP and New Principals Academy, while I'm rocking my Josh Gibson jersey, man. I feel like a real slugger this morning, man. That's why my voice a little bit more powerful, because I got the jersey on of the greatest hitter in baseball history. Right now that them records been merged, we knew that anyway, but now that they're merged, but I'm even rocking the cap, baby. So let me say to everybody, obviously I lost my train of thought with the routine of what I say. So we just gonna jump into it, man. Hey y'all, how you feeling? You know, that's my question. I tried to get away from it, but I couldn't. It's just it's in my DNA, I guess. So how you feeling? I'm feeling good. You know, it's I could talk about the week, the week in politics, but I won't. I could talk about the week in DC, but then that would monopolize the entire time, and half of y'all would probably leave and never come back, right? So, but what a week, But despite that, and that's the point. The despite is the point. Despite that, like Josh just said, I'm gonna say it the way Josh wrote it. I hope I don't have a stroke on this one. On fire! Woo! So yeah, I feel good, right? So long as I don't do it like twice, right? So yeah, so despite whatever's going on in the world, that's still how I feel, man. I gotta take care of this, me. Woo! So I'm feeling good, man. Let's jump into it. On this 11th day of October, 2025. Shout out to Connecticut Technical Education and Career System, Hartford, Connecticut. I got to spend time with for 2 days with all the principals, and all the assistant principals, man. Had a good time just dropping that instructional leadership knowledge because pretty much that's really all I want to talk about these days when I'm out there in the field. I just want to talk instructional leadership. I'll talk the other stuff if they ask me to, but what's really on my mind is always the instructional leadership, man. That's where the rubber meets the road. It really is, right? Because we're talking about pedagogy in the classroom. But also, I forgot to tell y'all again for the second time. I'm under a three session contract with NASSP, National Association of Secondary School Principals. I've been doing these webinars, so I did a second one this past Thursday, I think. And they're all for assistant principals. So I got one more. I wrote the date in my notes. Please put this in your calendar. November 13th. They're all at 3:00. November 13th, 3:00. National Association of Secondary School Principals. I do put the ad on my page, but I don't know how many of y'all be on my page like that. But we're doing one more, and this will be the culmination. Well, it's all instructional leadership. This will be the culmination. So join me, November 13th, 3:00 Eastern. I'll be sitting right here, and we're talking instructional leadership via National Association of Secondary School Principals. Hey, to the first timers, welcome to you. But if this is, in fact, your first time, you know what that means. You missed 284 sessions. You missed a lot of sessions, right? So go to the YouTube channel, AP and New Principals Academy. People ask me all the time, do you record them? I'm like, you're not asking me that in the age of technology in 2025, are you? Everything is recorded. Everything is recorded. There ain't nothing. You can't even go outside without being recorded, right? They got you, right? They got all angles of you when you go outside your house, right? So everything is recorded. So yeah, we record these. You can go to the AP New Principals Academy channel, YouTube channel, and while you're there, hit the subscribe button and be a part of the 24,500 subscribers. Again, 24,500 subscribers. I'm trying to get it to 25,000 though. So hit that subscribe button, then hit the notification bell to be informed when I go live, which is every Saturday at 10:55. That's the only time I go live on this platform. So please do that, and then tell somebody that you did so, and encourage them to come on and join us as well. Join us live. Most of our fam watch the recording, not the live, but we want you to be with us live, man, to feel that live energy, right? Don't forget to get your copy of I was going to say Is My School a Better School Because I Lead It. That was a 2018 book. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? If you don't have your copy, please get your copy, right? Most important book I ever wrote, probably the most important book that I will ever write, right? Because this is where the rubber meets the road. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? You can get your copy of that, ASCD, my publisher, .org, ASCD.org, or you can go to Amazon and get your copy. Matter of fact, get a copy for the whole staff, right? The whole leadership team, right? Just get everybody a copy. All right. And with that said, I'm at my monologue. Keep it short today. Keep it short. Last week, I did 8 minutes. Let me see if I can go shorter than that this week. I'm trying to keep it to 5. My monologue topic: big things happen from an idea. Big things happen from an idea. You all remember, those of you who were with us last week, the Milken Museum has a feature of me in the museum. There's over 3,000 Milken recipients, and for whatever reason, they featured myself and one of my colleagues. And you know what a blessing to be featured in a museum. But they also put together a video which I posted last week. And the last line that I say in the interview, it's a profile video, but there's a voiceover with me. And the last thing I say is big things happen from an idea. So when I heard that, because I didn't remember saying it, that was they interviewed me like a couple of years ago. But when I heard it, I said, bam, that's my monologue. Big things happen from an idea. Let's break that down. The word idea. It's 4 letters. It's a little itty bitty word. IDEA. Idea. But you know something about that little word? That little four letter word? 2 syllables. It's powerful. It's amazing. It's extraordinary. It's phenomenal. It moves mountains. Idea. Big things happen, start, commence from this little thing called idea. Long time ago, y'all. How long ago? 39 years ago. I said, I want to make a living writing books, speaking, consulting. That's 40 years. That's 39 years ago. Let's round it. That's 40 years ago. I didn't know how I was going to make that happen, but I had this little itty bitty thing called idea in my psyche. And now 40 years later, I've been living this thing for a long time, man. As an entrepreneur for the past 14 years. But it all started from an idea. What's that got to do with you and the AP and New Principles Academy? Everything. Let's break it down. I got these 10 quick points for you. I'm going to go fast, though. School culture. A culture of high academic achievement. Let's say that you do not live within that culture right now. All right, then here's my question to you. What is your idea? Something that you have not previously thought about. Something that you have not previously conceptualized. That you said, I need to be doing this thing, this little itty bitty thing, idea. I need to be doing this thing this way, differently from how I've been doing it thus far. And then here are the goals that accompany the idea. And here is the strategy that accompanies the idea. And here is my implementation that accompanies the aforementioned. But the starting point, the beginning, is the idea for this school culture, meaning this culture of high academic achievement, regardless of the challenges, the obstacles, the pressures, and the demands of the community upon which your students arrive to school from. Idea. Let's go. Number 2, systems. I go into some schools that there's no real structure. There's no real organization. What is your idea about systems that make your school into a well-oiled machine that does not need you present? What is your idea? And I might use this prop while I'm doing this with my fingers, this other prop, that mirror, because you got to go to it, right? Number 3. Programs, clubs, and activities. We'll put them all in one category. What is your idea about programs, about clubs, about activities that are not presently in your school, but are implementable, but rooted and grounded and planted in your idea? See, you got to go deep in your thinking, because they're thoughts that you've never had before, which generate that idea, and now you can let that thing germinate into something spectacular that you've never conceptualized before. Number 4, healthy staff relationships. Let's say there's some toxicity among staff. We ain't talking to one another. We don't like one another. It's just our job. What is your idea to bring them together and to start to flow and operate as a family in the truest sense of the word? We love one another. We got one another. Man, you better go to YouTube and watch the right after the game last night. I don't want to call it the post game, but right after the game, the Las Vegas Aces and the Phoenix Mercury, and listen to how all of those players on that Aces team, 3 championships over the past 4 years, listen to how they talked about each other. The love for each other, the support from one another. That's how the school's got to function, that we know we got each other's back. Let's go, because I don't want to turn any of these individuals to a lecture. Healthy student relationships. Let's say that those are toxic. Let's say that some of those are dysfunctional. What is your idea? to shift that. Where them young people go into the school and look at each other with an eye that I got you, because I know you got me. See, that matters. Next one, planning. What is your idea about planning? Maybe you're deficient as a planner. You just going into the building and you just doing, but there's no plan, there's no blueprint for what you do. You all know I got a video on there that I did solo about 2 hours long a few weeks ago. To go check it out. Coupled with the planning is the organization. Are you organized? How do you lead optimally and you're so disorganized in your leadership? What's your idea to get yourself organized, right? And then the one that naturally flows from planning and organization, time management. What is your idea to maximize every second of the day, every minute of the day, every hour of the day? Some of us are being managed by time because we haven't figured out how to manage time. Right? So, what is your idea? That little itty bitty thing, 4-letter word, that you become a better manager of your time. Next, 2 more, parental engagement. So maybe your parents are not engaged or families engaged to the extent that you would want them to be engaged. So parental and family engagement, what is your idea? And let me get my other prop out, that mirror, as you self-reflect and self-assess, right? What is your idea that you haven't even conceptualized yet because you turned off, you disconnected yourself from all the technology, you turned everything off, you sat somewhere quiet and just let your brain flow. And you came up with thoughts that you've never had before, that you never even conceptualized before. And those ideas started flowing. They started flowing. See, you got to do that. You can't come up with your best ideas and the TV's on, the music is on, your Bluetooth is in your ear, your email is flowing, your social media is flowing, and you expect to do your best thinking during those circumstances. It's not going to happen. I promise you. You got to disconnect. You got to detach. And you got to tell homie, I'll talk to you later, so that you can have that quiet time by yourself. And then my last one, community engagement. You don't have to be an island by yourself, as they say, unto yourself. Get the community involved. Synergy, 1 + 1 = 3. In fact, 1 + 1 = 100, right? But what's your idea? Because as I said, as I close, big things happen from an idea. Once again, big things happen from an idea. Enough said. Get it done. I got a guest today, y'all. I'm going one-on-one. Let me get them on up here. Let me get my screen right first, though. Let's see which one I want. I want this one right here. Let's go. Let's go. That's not the one I want. That's not it. Let's go. There we go. My brother, Joe Truss, how you doing?
Brother, I'm blessed.
Yes.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. And for those of you that you wouldn't know this unless you know Joe. He's on Pacific time, so he's up early in the morning. I've been up, but he does have children, so he got young children, so he be on Pacific time anyway, right?
Right.
But here we go. Hey, Joe. Before we get into it, what's that idea that you had at some point in your journey that was just this little thing that just blew up? What is that? Give the fam something, man.
Man, I'll take it back to when I was a principal. I just had this idea that I wanted the school to look nice, feel nice, to look inspiring, and that every space in the building needed to be transformed and touched. And I'll hit on that at some point, but like just this idea of like when I walk in, like I want my kids to want to come to the building, right? Like this idea of like, not I don't want to go to school today, but I want to go there to that place, right? So that idea of building that's an ever long quest, but
that's right.
Simple. Keep it simple.
That's right. I love it. Let me share with them who you are. Joe Truss is an educator, coach, and national speaker who helps school leaders break down barriers and build bridges for change. Joe grew up in San Francisco's Tenderloin and built his leadership from the classroom to the principalship. As principal of Visitation Valley Middle School, he led project-based learning, restorative practices, and culturally responsive teaching while tackling toxic culture head-on and rebuilding collective efficacy. He is known for making instructional leadership concrete, frequent classroom visits, purposeful school-wide walkthroughs, and feedback routines that align the strategic plan with the daily student experience. Today, as founder of Truss Leadership, Joe coaches superintendents, principals, assistant principals, and leadership teams across 10 districts in the US and Canada. He helps leaders clarify identity and mindset, strengthen climate and culture, and convert equity commitments into practical look-fors, templates, and rubrics teachers can use tomorrow. Joe has delivered keynotes to more than 12,000 people, reached thousands globally through conferences and year-long leadership cohorts, and his culturally responsive leadership blog has engaged over 600,000 readers. His focus is simple and relentless: align vision and instruction, control the controllables in culture and climate, and build the collective efficacy that moves student results. Good stuff, powerful stuff. Hey, fam, before we get going, do me a favor, hit that share button, that retweet button, repost, tag somebody, text somebody, hit up them Facebook leadership groups and let them know we are here. But let your folks know, and hit that like button. I can never forget that, it's particularly on YouTube, but also the other platforms. Hit the like button. Even if you dislike it, like it anyway, right? So hit that like button. Here we go. Hey, Joe, you know, you've accomplished a lot in your short journey. When I say short compared to mine, right? But you've accomplished a lot. But I want to just compartmentalize you for a second and just look at the educator side and ask the question that I ask probably 90% of my guests. As an educator, and if you want to tie it into the principalship, do so. Who is Joe Truss?
Yeah, appreciate the question. First, want to congratulate you. 285. That's a lot. Consecutive, even better.
Yeah.
All right.
Appreciate
and
that.
I will say, you know, but as I get started, just the inspiration you've given me on my journey is invaluable. So I just want to appreciate you to start off. When I think about who am I as an educator, man, as an educator, I was someone that was just trying to make it matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. Fortunately, I was the kind of kid that, like, I just did school. Okay? On a good day, on a bad day, when it was interesting, when it wasn't interesting, I did it. That was the kind of student I was. But I noticed that wasn't everybody's experience. And I knew that wasn't everybody's experience of the kids that I grew up with. They were in different classes. They were not at school. So for them, something else mattered more than school. More things were going on that were impacting them and preventing them from doing school. And school wasn't giving them what they needed. So I knew that. So as I got to college and I started putting this juxtaposition of my experience with everybody else I grew up with in my neighborhood, with their experience, I couldn't resolve those two things, right? Like we're told, like, if you make it, you good, and something's good about you. And everybody else, I don't know what's going on with them. That's the message we're supposed to take as we make it, wherever you're making it from. So when I tried to resolve that, for me, it was, well, school's got to be better then. School's got to be more relevant. It's got to be more interesting. It's got to be more responsive. So me as an educator, back to even that idea question, was I just wanted it to matter. Like I want, like, and not on like a fake, superficial kind of way. I wanted the students to feel like, okay, this matters to me. There's utility to this. I'm gonna use this at some points, right? These people want me to be here. So no matter what, I was always pushing my practice. So I started off as a high school Spanish teacher, and you know, I'm teaching. So let me just set the context. I'm teaching high school Spanish to majority African American students in Oakland. Okay. Now there's Mexican and Spanish speaking people in Oakland, 100%. That don't mean that that's automatically assumed desirable skill to have, right? So for me, like, a kid can easily say, I don't need this. We speak English here. I speak English. They speak English. We speak English. We don't need this. So for me, as a Spanish teacher, I needed my young people to say, I see some purpose to this. Okay. So as an educator, I was trying to make myself relevant. We call it relevant. We call it engagement, all the things we want to call it. So as an educator, that's what I was doing. And I hit you with one more. And I know you're a student of history as well. I was trying to give them what they weren't given.
Yeah.
Okay. So for me, I didn't get some of these teachings and learnings until I got to college, because it wasn't happening in K-12 education for me as a youngster. Okay. So when we're talking about like African American history as a Black person, I mean, that's where I started. African history, Central American history, revolutions and uprisings, Kemet. Okay.
Yeah.
They came before Columbus, right?
Yeah.
Like the Olmecs, like that kind of stuff. I didn't get that until I was 20, 21. So for me, I was trying to bring that stuff as young as I got them.
Yeah.
Right. So like now I could be talking to this 9th grader, 10th grader. So I was trying to give them the truth. I was trying to give them that other pill that they were being denied. I was trying to give them what was in the other door that they didn't know there's another door that they could open. Right. So for me, I was merging all that kind of stuff and merging that with Spanish and all that, all the other stuff. Right. So I want to give them the truth. I want to make it relevant. And I just want to be honest, man. You know, I was honest with my kids.
Yeah. Wow. I love it. You know, as you speak, and as I think about my second question to you, I can't, and let me recognize Vashti Silva, who's checking in from Belize. I appreciate you being here, Vashti, internationally from checking in from Belize as well. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. You know, I'm little fixated on the picture of Malcolm behind you, Brother Omawali, El Haj Malik Al Shabazz, Brother Malcolm X. And as I listen to your answer and kind of juxtapose that with my follow-up question, no student, and here it is, I haven't taught since last time I taught a class in terms of public school was 1998. And then the last time I led a school was 2011. But that, thinking about when I was in the classroom every day, there's no student who's now, you know, they're in their 40s, going on 50s, I guess, and 30s and all that type of thing, depending on what year they had me. But there's no student that can say that we had Mr. Kafele and he didn't teach us Malcolm. There's nobody. I would be shocked if I ran into some adult somewhere that I used to have as a youngster and they say, you never taught us Malcolm, right? That would shock me, because that would say to me, well, you slept through my entire year. Because, but I'm bringing it up for this reason. Everybody wasn't pleased that I was in there, and not just talking Malcolm. Malcolm was the spirit, right? But everybody in terms of adults wasn't pleased that I'm in there talking Malcolm, right? There was one school I led in New York City, in Brooklyn. I mean, not led, one school I taught in, that the teachers all went to the principal and said, can you tell him to take that picture off the wall? Right. They said, take it down. And I was wearing my garb at the time. And can you tell him to just wear a regular suit, you know, because I was wearing my African attire. And so I'm saying that to say this. I learned that first year that this thing I chose to do called teaching is not easy. Right. Because I'm not just dealing with teaching and learning. I'm dealing with all these other dynamics. And then when I became a principal, and I'm still trying to infuse the same thing, I'm doing it from the stage. It was full school assemblies or the gymnasium, right? And I know that there are forces that didn't want to hear that. So that, with so many other pieces, made the work difficult, right? It wasn't easy, but it was highly rewarding. It was fun. The pure leadership is easy, I think, for me, but the stuff that came along with it made it very challenging. Yeah. So my question to you is, I think you share comparable sentiments. So I want to ask you, despite all of that, which you probably dealt with at the same time, what drove you to continue to be your authentic self, and while simultaneously striving to be the best version of yourself?
Man, I mean, what drove me, man? I mean, I think one, history drives you. This is before I had kids, okay? So my answer has shifted over time. What drove me first was history. First is history of my own lineage, just a couple generations back, right? So for me, I grew up just raised by my mom. My dad passed away when I was young, 4 or 5 years old. He died at 34.
Mm, mm,
And so for many years, and including now, what drives me was living the life that he didn't get to live and enjoy, but also thinking about what is it that we need so that uh, less people are lost in the same kind of way, right? I talked about the young people I grew up with in my neighborhood. That drove me because it drove me crazy, right? Because there's this pressure, right? This guilt. Because if you don't take this, I'm better than everybody else mentality, then you take this, I'm indebted to and responsible for my community. So that drives me to show up and do right, right? History also, because when you know your history, you know where we've come from, both the greatness that we've come from and the struggles that we've come from. That drove me, right? And then now, if I were to answer that question now, it's my kids. And when I speak to people nowadays, I almost always start my workshops, not my big presentations, with pictures of my kids. So I just say, look, you know what? I got a vested interest in
yeah,
what's going on in these schools here. You see
yeah,
my brown children here in this picture of them, right? That I want something better for them and all the kids too. But like my kids are going into your schools. That drives me, right? To do right, to be authentic is when you realize that your voice has been taken away from you. When you realize that in order to ascend and move up and move through the system, you got to divorce yourself from certain aspects of your identity, of your culture. When you realize that's the process that's going on, you're like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I want to keep some of this. So then you realize there's a point that you got to shut something off. And it really wasn't necessarily always about being my most authentic self. It was about rediscovering and going back and getting, right? Sankofa, going back and getting my
yeah,
authentic self. So actually, as I've gotten older, and older folks have told me this, as I'm starting to get a little older, that you become more and more authentic over time, right?
yeah,
So part of this driving is like, I need to rediscover my authentic self through this process, right? And the more I did that, there's also this justice aspect of it, because then that allows other people to do the same thing. It
yeah,
allows your staff to do the same thing, the students, because the students are being told that they have to divorce themselves from their identity and their culture. But when they see their leaders and their staff and their educators being authentic, and they're like, oh man, I can breathe, I can relax, right? So you know that there's a direct action. And when I show up, however I show up to school, it just in my brown skin in the building, students are like, oh man, I could be I could be in my brown skin, right? So it's all connected, right? But it's a deep um, purpose. It's a deep, larger spirituality around why we're doing this. It's bigger than the standards, bigger than the job description, right? It's beyond this time and space.
love it, love it, love it. To the fam out there, I want to remind you once again of my topic today. School leadership is all that, but it ain't easy. Let's talk about it. Joe. It's not uncommon for me to have private conversations with leaders. This is not something that would come up amongst an audience, but private one-on-ones during breaks, um, or emails where there are these district mandates as it relates to the instructional program. Right. So it could be a whole school reform model. It could be any type of model that the district has adopted, and we have to adhere to this like a script for a movie, right? But then that same principle has their own contention of what good instruction looks like. So now you've got this conflict between district requirements and the principal's own intelligence, based on their own research and prior background in teaching and learning, et cetera. And there's this conflict. So I get it, and I was him, by the way. Make no mistake about it. And I got in a lot of trouble. My trouble went as far as the media and suspension, right? So I know something about that. So here's the thing. My question to you, and is it might be one I probably should have told you beforehand, but let's roll with it. What is your message to that principal that may be on here right now that I just spoke to their reality? That there's a conflict between what the district expects and what I know my students need instructionally. what might be your message to that principal that could be tuning in right now?
It's a great question. I found myself getting in trouble many times before as well. First, I would say, man, first, good, okay? Because that tells you that you're bringing something to the table, right? You bringing some food to the potluck, okay? Like you brought something here, right? Because the bureaucracy and the status quo will have us believe that we are just machines moving through this system, being given what we're supposed to be done, and we just do the job. We told a party line, we do what we're supposed to be doing, okay? So if you got something that's in conflict with that, good. Right? Because you could pull on that. You could bank on that. That could be your fuel. That could give you some direction, right? That don't mean it's gonna be easy, but some people got to work at that, right? Some people got to realize that there's some tension between what's right and what's being asked of them. We got to build that idea. Sometimes I do that work with schools and school districts now, right? To have them understand that it ain't matching, right? So if you're bringing that, you ahead of the game first, right?
Yeah.
Second, try to codify that in a vision, okay? I actually believe that leaders, especially school leaders and teachers for that matter too, you are an expert at the level that you are at. Classroom teachers are the expert of their classroom and what's going on. School leaders are the expert of what's going on in the building and therefore the vision. So for me, I'm trying to beat my superiors and my bosses to the punch of having a vision. Sometimes my strategic plan was more in depth than the school district's strategic plan, right? Sometimes my course of action was not necessarily more thorough, more concrete, more effective than what was being asked of me, right? And more transparent, right? So if you got something that's like this inkling, this feeling in the back of your head, write that thing down first, right? Make it clear, right? So you understand what you talk about, and then go tell your people that, right? Because the truth is the leader sits at the funnel a little bit too, right? So if you can get your stuff right in the building level, ain't nothing coming into the building.
Yeah.
It don't need to be there, right? And that's not about power and control. It's about clarity, right? So for me, I think it's paramount that school leaders have a vision that's internal, that they're communicating that vision, and it's transparent and understood to everybody else in the building. Because then in that way, whatever they're talking about over here this year, it's going to shift the next year. It might shift the next year. You're at a certain point, your staff is kind of like, I'm not really tripping off what they're talking about because here. This is how we get down here in the good way. Sometimes we do that in bad ways, right? But in the good way, we aspire to this. We believe in this. We're about doing this. I don't know what they're talking about there. And when you get to that, then you got that collective efficacy I was talking about, right? You got that shared message, that shared power. Then it's just like, it kind of doesn't matter. And truth be told, you're probably going to be more functioning than whatever it is they're talking about. Then they kind of leave you alone to a certain extent. Now, there's a little bit of playing the game, a little bit of like, okay, well, I'm going to check a couple of boxes when you show up. But how often they showing up, right? So like sometimes when I work with leaders, I'm like, cool. How often they in the building? 2 times. Okay, great. How many other times you in the building? Oh, 150 times. Okay. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff doesn't really matter when your staff knows how we get down here and what we're about. Teachers say the same thing, right? If you're not really an effective or consistent principal, they can say, I don't care what the principal's talking about. They ain't never here. I'm gonna do whatever I'm doing in the classroom, right? So we got to penetrate that level too, right? To make sure that that's all clear. So you want to be transparent with what the vision is and what you're doing, and then also you articulate that up too to say, hey, you know what, boss man, boss woman, this is what we're doing in my school, and make it good, make it effective, make it research back too. Your research is probably better than their research. Adding some lived experience, and now we're talking. Adding some student experience, now we're talking. Then they kind of really can't say nothing to you, right?
Yeah.
Then you can keep it going. Then you become a bright spot in the district when they're like, oh man, so-and-so school is actually on fire. They're doing it. Then they kind of just leave you alone, right? Let you do your thing.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And you know, as I'm listening to you and processing what you said in my head, and you actually said this, and I'm just using different words. You got these 2 principles, these 2 fictitious principles in the world, and this one principle, we could call them the company person, right? Like you just push the company line, right? Whatever they say. So that's what you're selling. But then you got this other principal. They're going to do the same thing because they work within a system, so we understand that. However, they have presented themselves in a way that these are very intelligent people, right? Like they know something, they've read some things, they philosophically they can speak about some things that they're passionate about, etc. So when one positions themselves that way amongst staff, and they see, oh, you're not just someone who's pushing whatever's coming from central office, but you're actually a smart person. Like you know some things. We can learn from you. Then everything goes right back to what you said, right? And that's the way that I position myself as principal, that I'm not just, receiving the mandates from central office and now the staff meeting, okay, here's what the district expects. No. I want you to know who Kafele is, right? And what I'm about and what it is that we're trying to accomplish through my leadership, right? So I say all that just to dovetail with you. Hey, fam out there, you can make that mandate work while infusing who you are in it, or said differently, who your staff is, because we don't want to lose sight of the fact that you got intelligent people on that staff too that know some things, right? But are we tapping into all that human capital, or are we just passing down whatever the mandates are coming from central office, right? I can't function in that environment, and I did not function well in that environment, and that's why I had to be me and get in good trouble, right? So but anyway, Joe, instructional leadership, as I said in the monologue, and as I say in pretty much anywhere I go, even non-professionally, instructional leadership is everything for me. It's where the rubber meets the road. It's where I'm able to be culturally relevant in my pedagogy, or teaching teachers how to be culturally relevant within their pedagogy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But here's the thing. A lot of folks, particularly assistant principals, will say to me, Principal Kafele, I sat through the presentation, the full 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever it is. I'm with you. I'm riding with you. But the problem is, with all this on my plate, I don't have the time to do anything you said, because discipline is a real thing in my space. But my counter to them is always, if discipline is an issue in your school, then it speaks to the dysfunction of the culture of your school, right?
Yeah.
So there's something there. So I wanted to ask you, what are your thoughts on a leader striving to be an effective instructional leader within a culture of dysfunction? How do we do that, or what are the steps that we need to take to eradicate the culture that's prevailing?
So maybe I'll start with some lessons learned and some mistakes first. So I think in the beginning of my leadership journey, I thought that you could just say what needed to be done. We're on the same page, like remind people of what the calling is and just move forward, right? I thought we were all kind of bringing the same mindset, the same background to the work. We're not. I also thought that you could just jump to instruction, and I tried. But when we think about like Maslow type stuff, right? Like the basic needs weren't really being met, and so therefore the culture sometimes is around is related to chaos a little bit, a lack of clarity, right? So some of that stuff has to get more clear. So some of these structures and systems got to be put in place. Not always first, maybe at least simultaneously to while we're talking about instruction, but definitely before we lean really hard into it. So we need some predictability. People need to know what to expect in the coming days. Two, we do need some sort of temporary systems around behavior, even if we're going to come back and change it, right? We need some sort of response. Staff need to know that something's going to happen when they call for help. It can't just be like, well, we're doing restorative justice and we're going to let you sort it out. That will never get us to thinking about deeper instructional kind of moves. So we got to respond to what people need. Now, two, or after that, we can't assume that everybody's coming from the same background but their understanding of instruction too.
Yeah.
Because we didn't all go to the same schools, we didn't all read the same books, we didn't all go to the same workshops and conferences. So we got to bring some of that stuff into the class, into the staff PD kind of space, so that way we can get on the same page, so we know what we're talking about. We also got to excavate some of these false narratives and misconceptions that people are drawing from that impact what they think needs to be happening in the school with children. So there's got to be some cross-referencing, some analysis of, okay, you think this is true. Why do you think that's true? Almost like some backwards kind of going back to be like, well, where'd that come from? Oh, from that. That's problematic. Let's put something else there. Now we can kind of rebuild on top of that. So we kind of got to go beneath all these things, right? Because the culture is, we don't start with culture. We start with mindset. We start with behavior. We start with biases. We start with past experiences. We got to go into all that stuff. Identity. So we got to go there. And then you got to name the culture that you want. Because it's one thing to be like, the culture's broken, we need to fix culture. That's not specific enough, right? So what I realized back when I was a principal, we were trying to do Zaretta Hammond's work back in the day, 2015, 2016, right? We were trying to do culture responsive teaching. We were trying to do restorative practice to sound great. Why it didn't work? Because we dropped it into the culture of the building without addressing the culture, the staff culture. Kid culture, there's a part of that too, but just the staff culture. So we needed to work on the staff culture. There's some work involved with that. There's some reading, there's some discussion, there's some tears, there's some sharing, there's some vulnerability. We needed to work on that. So we needed to change, some people call it like a container. Like, I got to set the container that I'm putting the stuff into. We have to reset the container, or maybe make a new container, right? To actually green light a different kind of culture. So we got to give that a name, right? That's a culture of vulnerability. That's a culture of taking risks. That's a culture of asking for help, from having your people's back, from apologizing, from rewarding, from acknowledging what people are doing when they're doing great things. We need all that culture. Then we can drop in any number of good ideas into that culture. So we can't just bring good ideas. That's why these good ideas don't stick over time. Zaretta Hammond book, hey, he came and went. 500,000, probably 1 million copies. She got another book out right now.
That's right. Brand new.
But it gets dropped into the current state of affairs in the building, in the district. So we got to work on that kind of piece. And I get to do that as a consultant now, of making new norms in the building, of going deep and having people excavate what's going on inside their mind, right? Of making new agreements with each other to then say, now we're going to do something different and structurally. But also, last thing I'm going to say on the behavior instruction piece, we got to also problematize our obsession with behavior. Because we take it as like true that like all we're there is to make sure these kids behave, and I'm not doing nothing until these kids behave. I'm not doing nothing fun until these kids follow directions. We got to problematize that concept, period, especially when it comes to race and class, because when you go to white schools, when you go to middle class, rich schools, they ain't saying that about the children. We say that about poor brown children. So there's a racial and class a dynamic to saying that behavior is number one.
Yeah.
And like you said before, if the behavior's messed up, the culture's messed up, but also the instruction. Both this year and the previous years, it probably wasn't cutting it for the kids. And the literacy levels probably wasn't cutting it. So the behavior's really just a symptom of a deeper problem. Let's address the deeper problem.
Yeah.
All together. And it's not to say like we're not going to do nothing with behavior, but it's all together. And our educators need to know this is how dynamic the work is. It ain't that simple. It ain't simple. It ain't supposed to be simple. This is complex. That's okay. Let's work together and do it though.
Great stuff. You know, if I heard you correctly, then, and you rescue me if I'm wrong, as Karenga would say, there can't be a paradigm shift in culture in this one swoop. But I may have to identify, okay, this area for change, shifting, pivoting, this area, before I can start really thinking in a very serious way about a paradigm shift of who we are culturally speaking. Did I interpret that correctly?
Most definitely. And the constant is also key, right? It's a constant gardening. Because you can't just say a thing, put a memo out, launch something in August, and never tend to the garden again. We got to go back and keep working on the garden. Our garden as a people, as a staff, relational. We got to do a little bit of relational work too, because once we hit October, November, and we hit that dip, people ain't trying to hear nothing. They're not trying to hear nothing. And then we revert back to the old system, the old paradigm. So we got to keep tending to the garden of the culture of our people as we're continuing to do this instructional and social emotional work as well.
Love it. So fam out there, fam who's on with us live right now, and fam who will see this video later on. Let me ask you a question. What is that? When you think about the culture of your school and the overall culture, but then you got these segments of the culture. Fam, I want to ask you this question. What are those areas that you may deem? Let us focus right here first, right? Like it may not touch the entirety of your culture, but what's that area you said, okay, we don't have this right? And let me give you an example of what I mean, and then we're gonna move on to the fam out there. Perhaps the way you process your system of how students enter the building, maybe that's problematic. So when you think about the totality of culture, from the time the first student arrives at school until the last student leaves at the end of the day, that's a lot of work. But let's say you compartmentalized it, and just the process of entering the building, it's problematic. Maybe that's where you're going to focus your energy. Maybe there's something about that. And I don't want to start brainstorming what some of those things may be, because then that will become the conversation, right? You do that, right? But just think about when a student arrives on campus, what happens? Who do they see? What do they do? Where do they go, right? And maybe that's problematic. And maybe you need to start there. And those of you that really know my work, then you know what I'm going to say second, and then I'm going to step away from it. What about the principal's message to the school? Because I'm going to tell you something, y'all, as it relates to culture. I know definitively, and I would challenge anybody that's ever worked with me as a staff person, whether it be certificated or non-certificated or student, I would challenge anybody to come on here right now and tell me that the morning message of the principal, meaning myself, did not make a significant impact on the entirety of the school, right? So maybe it's a school where the culture, whatever that means in the abstract, but now we say, but what is it that I'm doing as principal to set the tone, to lay a foundation for the rest of the school day? So that's my takeaway in terms of, let me compartmentalize and let me look at segments, aspects, components of the culture toward getting to the entirety of the culture through the different components of culture, right? So I love it. I love it. Let's go.
And let me jump on that for a second, Kafela, because you got me
jump in. This is your show today, baby. Yeah, you got it.
So this morning piece is key. For me, at some point, I don't know when I started it, but I needed to be at the front of the building. I needed to be at that front door. We called it the threshold of the classroom back in the 05s, 06s, right? But there's a threshold of the building too, if you got one entrance at least, right? So this idea of, for me, it was important for me to be there saying hello. And for me, I notice that now, as I move around now, I notice how often you don't see anybody at the front door, or you just see security guard, let's just say. And that says something too, right? If your first interaction to the building is seeing a security guard or nobody, that says something. And it makes you feel a certain way. But for me, it was important to be there, opening the door, holding the door open. Specifically, I have a little USB boom box out there, right? It's early in the morning. It's cold in the morning in San Francisco, right? And but I'm out there. I got my warm coat on. If it's raining, I got a little umbrella sometimes, and I'm out there just saying hello to the people coming in, students and staff, because we only got one entrance. So now I'm shaking some hands, I'm doing some fist bumps, seeing who's looking. However, I maybe have to pull a kid to the side from something happened from yesterday. But I got some music playing, and kids in this middle school, they're trying to be too cool for school too. But they kind of get a little dance moves coming in too. I may switch up the songs when I see some kids coming, because I know what kind of music they like. But that idea, and now I'll tell you what the culture piece is. What I noticed, I know it meant something when I was busy or I was away. Maybe I was at a conference or I was downtown in a meeting, something like that. And I came in a little bit late, and I was like, oh, I missed the morning thing. And I saw somebody out there doing it.
Wow.
Social worker, assistant principal, a teacher, or they would come out and stand with me for a second. Like, oh no, Joe, I'm just going to kick it with you for a minute and say hi to these students, right? And I know that wasn't happening before I got there. I knew that much. But those kind of things matter, right? It's simple, right? And yes, I could be doing something else. I could be sitting in my office doing some emails, or I don't know, moving some tables, chairs, something like that. But it says something if that's where I want to be, and the first thing they see is somebody there, somebody who's happy to be there, somebody who's giving them a smile, fist bump, playing some music. That's like, hey, you know what? Like, I want to come in. I want to be a part of this party today. You know, like I want to get on the guest list here, right? Those kind of things are huge, right? Because then people say like, well, what else might I want to do? How do I want to stand in my classroom door? How do I want to open? I got some music. I want to play my music. Like all those things just domino effect at that point. So like it's huge, right? And yes, that's in the face. That's even on a bad day. That's even when something bad happened yesterday. Yeah, that we broke up a fight at the bus yesterday. I'm still out there the next day. And that says something too, to be like, no, we're not just gonna hang it all up because we had a bad day or something, somebody's mad about something, or is it an investigation or whatever. You know, like we still out here doing this thing in the right way, right?
Man, I love it. You sound like me in the morning. That morning, that time before that late bell rings, man, it matters. It matters. I had to keep this comment on the screen for both of us. Sandra Brackens. What about when the principal's morning message doesn't match the way he or she treats staff? The message sounds good, but it's all talk. You know, let me say this first, and then Joe, if you want to comment on it, feel free. But let me say this. I'm not going to respond to this from the vantage point of fixing that principle. Now, I don't want to do that in terms of my role here with that this morning. What I want to do is use this as an example for the fam that's tuning in, right? So fam, hear me well. I'm glad that Lysandra put that on the screen. You can't be that. You know, so here, like people say to me all the time, they say, Kafele, I love your show, or people call me, I want to be on your show, or agents will call me, can I get my client on your show? I'm like, I don't have a show. I've never had a show, and I will never have a show. I have a Saturday morning academy. So I treat it as an academy. So let me talk to the people, to the fam out there real quick. That what Lysandra Bracken said is real. You can't take your mic and you saying all the right stuff, but it's in stark contrast to who you really are. Right. So I'm saying to somebody on the call right now, who will see the video later, make sure that there's consistency, that there's congruency between who you are on a microphone and who you are with your staff and students. Right. Don't put on a show, because all that is a performance in the morning. That's all it is. But it's not who you are. So make sure that there's consistency between whatever your message is. And my messages were powerful. I took that morning message extremely seriously in the morning, and nobody that was in my school tell you less, right? I took it extremely seriously in the morning, but I'm going to make sure that when I put that mic down, I'm still that guy. I'm still that person. I'm still that leader. That matters, because if I'm not, then just like Lysandra said, people will say, oh, that ain't really who he is. This guy's a jerk, right? This guy's an a-hole. Right. That's what they'll be saying. They'll be texting each other. They'll be in the parking lot talking about it. They'll be at the door of the classroom door talking about it. There's got to be consistency, congruency in who you are when you go there. But just in turn, real quick, with something like that, I would like to think that most schools, there's certain staff members that have a little bit more just comfortable. I don't think that's a word. I was getting ready to make up a word. That there's certain staff members that just feel a lot more comfortable in speaking to the principal than, say, others. Well, if you have those folks, you tell that person to have a conversation with the principal about what we're perceiving as staff about the inconsistency of your messaging and who you really are. Right. It's important. And like I had those folks on my staff. I had people on my staff that if I made a decision about something, they coming right to me, and they know that there are no consequences to them. They know that. They know I'm not going to do anything. right? Because they've earned the right to come to me, Kafele, that decision is not a good decision. I'm good with that because we have that kind of rapport. We have that kind of relationship. So I'm not going to get mad at this person. I'm going to thank the person for challenging me, and I'll make a decision as to whether or not I'm going to stick to my plan, or if I'm going to deviate because this person came from a different perspective, right? So just keep all that in mind. With that said, Joe, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, take it as a gift for you too, to be like, man, is what I'm saying matching? And if I'm not a principal at this moment, when I become a principal or a leader, I got to make sure there's alignment in those two things. And I think what you said too, let your people hold you accountable, right? To that alignment. And I mean, be better. It's hard. We've seen a lot of performative leadership and performative action, so it's easy to fall into that trap, right? So yeah, take it as a reminder. Yeah, but don't be the person to tell them that that's out of alignment necessarily, unless they're trusted, because we only really want that feedback from people that we trust and we let in. So sometimes you got to be strategic. If you're really trying to shift that principle, maybe there's somebody that they do want to listen to, or maybe you just got to waste your time till you get to be that person.
Love it. I'm with you. Let's go. I'm gonna quote you from the bio. You're known for making instructional leadership concrete, frequent classroom visits, purposeful school-wide walkthroughs, and feedback routines that align the strategic plan with the daily student experience.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us about how you made all of this happen and the impact it made on instruction and learning in classrooms.
Yeah, so I mean, I think the first part is we got to get clear with what it is we want to see. And the reason I wanted to put that daily student experience in is because we can do all of this talk about what it is that we want to see happen, the changes that we want to see happen for the data, but it doesn't change the daily experience in the classroom. So this piece of and I've gotten better at this now as I've had more years, and now I get to work with school districts now, right? Great. What do we want to see kids doing and saying? That's actually all I really care about. I don't care what page in the book that they're on, because they could be on the right page, but they ain't doing it anyway. The teacher could be doing the dog and pony show, the right moves, but that's cool. That means that teacher is being a good teacher. I want to know, are the students doing good student work, right? So the biggest part there is we have to get clear with what we want to see. And I'll give a quick short list on this. Now, there's some work around generating this list too, right? So I can make my own list of what I want to see. I can co-construct this list with my staff. A teacher and students in their classroom, they can co-construct this list. But the question is, what are students doing and saying? Short answer, they're talking. Because if we don't get to that clarity of what we want to see, it don't matter, because we can get there and we can get fooled and fail the eye test. They pass the eye test, but we fail with what's really supposed to be happening. Because we go in, their pencils moving, they look their head doing this or whatever. They look like they're doing school in there. Great. It ain't gonna shift what's happening though. Because when I go in, I want to see kids. I want to hear kids talking. That means the teacher ain't talking.
Yeah.
As much, maybe not much. Kids are talking. I want to see the kids moving. I want to see the kids joyful to be there. I want to see the kids asking questions. I want to see the kids accessing the resources that they need. I want to see the students celebrating each other. All these things, right? Students doing, saying, right? Once we get that list, then we just go look and have an honest conversation with what we see. Because if we don't have that list, we can go in there and be like, oh yeah, it looked good. They were doing school. Or they had the objective on the board. Great. That don't mean they were doing the objective. That don't mean they demonstrated the objective, the students, right? So the first piece, like I said, is the clarity, right? The next piece is, man, we got to connect our professional development to shifting those things. Because now once we have that list, if the teachers and the staff can say, you know what, my kids aren't doing those things. I actually want them to do those things, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing to get them to do those things. Oh, okay, cool. Let's talk about that, because somebody in the building does know how to do that, We know that with the bright spot. Now let's get those people sharing their best practices with each other, right? Now we can kind of connect our PD to the things that we want to see, right? Uh, the other piece I'll add to this is we got to get more people doing the looking, right? So yes, I can do the looking as a principal. My boss's boss can come in and do the looking as their job, whatever that is. When we get staff looking at other staff classroom for the right criteria, then we get in there. Let's add a little bit to that. If we get students, and I just did this 2 weeks ago. I was down in Marin at an alternative school, and they wanted us to do some walkthroughs with them. We said, let's bring some students. So we had 5 students at an alternative school walk with us, me and another consultant, in their classrooms. They had the checklist, they had the clipboard. They were looking for what was happening, and they were looking at increasing joy, increasing student agency, and like student connection, identity exploration. The students were looking at other students learning in the classroom. Then we came back and we debriefed together. And then those students came to the staff meeting that same week, and they presented to their staff what they saw. We gave them, our summary and our recommendations. That loop there, that's undefeated when we set it up and we want it, right? Because then the data doesn't really matter, right? That this is a smaller data loop that's happening every day, every week, that we don't got to wait to the end of the year we get the data. Because when we get the classroom experience right, we know it's going to set up the end of the year data. Because the reason students are developing these skills because they ain't developing them today in real time or tomorrow. So when we test the skill later on, they don't have the skill, right? So bringing that more and more people. I've had parents involved in walkthroughs before. One year we had some parents, we had translators, we had like a Chinese translator, a Spanish translator. We had I got some pictures somewhere on Facebook. We had 30 people in this room debriefing what we saw in the classroom. That's rich. Do you know what I mean? We're not looking for if they got the objective on the board. We're looking for academic language. We're looking for student joy. We're looking for connection, right? And we're having that conversation.
Wow. That's powerful stuff. I think about I've had a couple of opportunities to I'll come into a school as a consultant and the students are engaged in circles, and they asked me to be a part of the circle, and it's a beautiful thing where I'm no longer Principal Kafele, right? The speaker, the this and the that. I'm just a guy in the circle. And both of those opportunities I had this year, they were very rewarding for me to not be that guy, but just be some guy in the circle that the students who are in the circle know nothing about my background. They just know that I'm a visitor in the room, and it's very beneficial. And it just made me think of those walkthroughs that you did with student eyes on what's happening in the classroom as it relates to other students, their peers. That's a powerful experience, something that I may have to borrow from you, because that's a whole different perspective in terms of feedback that you're going to get, because they're going to see, they're not looking at it through the professional lens, as you know. They're looking at it through the recipient lens of we're in the classrooms and whether or not this stuff is beneficial to us or not, right? We're going to get the truth that day. Yeah. Good stuff. Let me keep going. You talk about these identity rounds, routines, toward keeping instruction at the center. So my question to you, what are leader identity routines, and how do you sustain these routines when the urgent day-to-day, as you gave it to me, tries to pull leaders away from instruction?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first one is do you care about instruction or not? First, okay.
Repeat that. That's powerful in and of itself. Give me that again.
Do you this first question is is instruction connected to your identity or not? Is that true, right? Because I spoke about the behavior, and we find ourselves in this behavior trap often in underserved schools because we've been conditioned to think that all we are focused on is managing these kids' behavior, these Black and brown bodies, right? Compliance, right? So when you come in, you're like, we talk about instruction here. That is a major shift, right? Now you got to back it up, of course, right? But that's a major shift don't put yourself in some brown skin. They'd be like, oh, you really here to manage these kids' behavior, right? So when you come in, you're talking about instruction, you're really blowing some stuff up because they're used to seeing other people being experts on instruction that don't have brown skin. Okay. Now, if you are going to say I care about instruction, then you got to back that up some way, okay, with the action. Now we're going on the daily piece, right? Because the truth is, behavior can take you off track, right? A fire can take you off track. A technical thing can take you off track, right? Somebody out can take you off track, which gets back to the systems place of like, you need a sub system. You know what I mean? You can't be the sub. Like I fell in that trap of like, I got a sub for all the classes because we don't got the teacher in, we don't got nobody. We got to come up with a system of making sure that we got some teachers in the classroom, even when people are out. So that way administrators could be doing some leadership kind of work, right? Two is I can't just be the one managing behavior also. So luckily I wasn't. It's hard when you are a sole principal in the school, but you got some people that you could leverage as well. So you need to create some systems of the plan can't be called the principal. That can't be the plan for everything all day, 24/7. If that's the plan, you never gonna have any sort of sacred time to do anything instructional focused, whether that's visiting the classroom, debriefing, whatever. So all that stuff is great. If you don't have a system, it ain't happening. Now the identity piece, the narrative piece, for me, I want it to be like, don't bother Truss. He's in the classrooms. Do you know what I mean? Like, now that could be other way, like don't bother Truss. He's in his office not doing a damn thing, right? That's a narrative. It could be a narrative, right? But I want it to be no, Truss out is in there visiting classrooms. Whether I'm doing an informal walkthrough, I'm doing a debrief, or I'm doing a formal evaluation, whatever that may be, don't bother him, right? Like we need to have that be just as important as Truss's boss is here, the principal's boss is here, don't bother, because we know that, right? Or the police is there, principal's talking to the police, don't bother him, something's important going on. We need to elevate instructional support and coaching to that same level, right? So that way, like I had security staff, right? So they knew I'm gonna say something a little crazy. I didn't have a walkie-talkie. I did, but at a certain point I was like, nah, I'm not bringing it in the classroom. You got my cell phone, you can text me. Don't text me unless it's super important though. Do you know what I mean? Because like I'm in the classrooms doing this thing, right? So I need some systems for that. Now I'll give you another little piece. When I had assistant principals and multiple ones, we had to come up with a little schedule too of who was on duty to receive some of these calls, who was not. And I needed to give my assistant principal who was focused more so on behavior time to get into the classrooms. Like, don't bother so-and-so, they in the classroom. That means that I needed to go step up and go handle some of the calls when needed, right? These are all systems that need to be built, right? Now, when they see those systems in line and that action, and it's like, oh man, these fools care about some instruction. They care about the classroom. And the teacher's like, damn, these guys are in my classroom again. Damn, like you want that to be like, okay, I guess this is something here. We're going to talk about this, right? So the system piece, the clarity piece, the follow-through piece, right? And, looking for the right stuff. Because if I'm in there looking for stupid stuff, it doesn't really hit the same way as like, oh no, man, he's in there looking for kids talking. He's in there looking for deeper learning. He's in there looking to see if we're really doing these restorative circles that we're talking about. Like, we're looking for those things. He's in there talking to kids to ask them how they're doing, right? Like they need to see that in the backup, but you can't get off track. You can get pulled off track.
I love it. Let's keep moving. Yeah. I got, as I do with all my guests, I get overzealous in preparing questions, and I never get to all of them. Let me get to as many as I can. From time to time, Joe, I encounter a district where there's a contract, a teacher contract, where it restricts the number of times that an administrator can visit a classroom. It restricts the number of times that an administrator can have a coaching conversation with a teacher. And typically when I'm in those environments, I've heard it before, but it always catches me off guard, because then it alters my entire day, right? In terms of what I plan to present, because these folks can't do the things that I was asked to come out there and talk about. So my question to you, and I don't mind jumping in on it with you, but I want to throw it at you first. How would a Joe Truss in a consulting capacity help a leader to circumvent? Now, circumvent's not the word. Help a leader to navigate um, a situation where I can only go into a classroom X number of times when the consulting that you're providing will pretty much dictate that the principal or the assistant principal is in the classroom more than the number of times that a contract says I can be in the classroom.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate the question. I mean, one is there's always a way.
Hmm.
Okay. The front doors, the back doors, the top window, like there's a way in to whatever it is that we're trying to do. We've got to get creative, right? And the truth is, in that answer, maybe it's not you. That's okay. It's actually, if you can create a system that it doesn't have to be you doing the accountability work, that's actually even better, right? So what I would, in that situation, I would say like, well, who can be in the classrooms? Oh, the coaches can be in the classrooms. Let's talk to the coaches. Oh, you can do peer-to-peer observation. The teachers can be in each other's classroom. Let's do that, right? But that also says that we got to build the capacity of the people who could do that, right? So for me, we had regular meetings, not just with my administrators, but also the coaches that we had. And when I had an instructional leadership team, it wasn't just about making decisions and planning field trips. It was about building their capacity to be instructional leaders in the building. So in that way, when we did peer-to-peer walkthroughs, they were bringing that same energy to that. So maybe I don't got to be there because that's back to that clarity piece around what we want to see. Because if we got this list of 10 things that we want to see in the classroom and they helped co-create it and they got some skin in the game on that list, then let them go in the classrooms. Let them have that conversation. We see this also happen when we talk about meetings too. Like I can only lead so many meetings as a principal, but it's all these other meetings that I'm supposed to supposedly not touch. Cool. Who can touch those meetings? Oh, the department heads can touch those meetings. Who's the facilitator of those meetings? Department heads. Who meets with the department heads? Oh, nobody. Let's start meeting with them. Let's start building their capacity. So, but they have some agents to be like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna do something different in these meetings here. That's congruent with the general plan that I got some collective agency in, right? So like, it's just about aligning all these things that it don't got to be you. Even better when it's not.
Wow, love it. I got to show you this, Joe. I just had it. You probably saw it, but it's one of my buddies from Oklahoma City, Principal Kenyell Sessions. This PD is fire. I've decided this Academy episode is going on replay as soon as we conclude, and the remainder of the week and beyond with pen and my principal journal.
Oh, much appreciated.
Yeah, it don't get no better than that. Don't get no better than that. Right. That's why we do this. You know, that's I love it. But then after that, Pauline Pierce said ditto. that's why I tell you, I don't have no show. We Saturday morning academy. Good stuff. You know, let me swing your attention to the assistant principal on here. We got a lot of people, man. Ditto. Definitely. Yeah. I love it. Let's shift over to the assistant principal. You said you help school leaders to break down barriers and build bridges for change, which I said. So give us an example. Just go into your experiences as either an AP or principal of an AP, and give us an example of a barrier that an assistant principal may face, and how to break it down, and how to build a bridge for change with that particular barrier that you got in your mind.
I mean, I think one is administrators can come from different previous experiences. So some people, you can come as a counselor and not having had teaching experience, right? So there could be this barrier of like, you know what, I actually don't feel comfortable sitting in this instructional leadership chair to go get feedback about that because I was never a teacher in that kind of traditional way. So that can be a barrier. Now we meet some of those people who become principals and central office and superintendents, and they're making decisions not really guided by actual teaching experience. That's a huge barrier, right? Now, if you're aware of that, now we can say, well, how can we go build your capacity around teaching and learning so that way you do feel confident? Because the truth is, even if you don't have 20 years of experience of being a teacher, you have this role and responsibility to evaluate, coach, support, supervise educators, because I can't necessarily do all of that as a principal. So one of the ways of building a bridge was, well, what do you have experience in teaching and learning? You've done some stuff with that, even if you were a counselor. Now, what else do you need to go learn? Oh, you need to go look into these standards. You need to go spend some time in the bright spots in the classrooms. You need to go to some of these instructional conferences because maybe you didn't go to them yet. That'll get you a little more in the game so you can do that. Conversely, on the other side, you could have, I had this experience where I had someone who had teaching experience, but they just didn't feel comfortable giving the real to their colleagues. Okay? Because the truth is, you could just have such a large heart that you don't want to give negative feedback. Or you could just get real uncomfortable with the smoke when people start pushing back and you don't know what to do when people are like, hey, when they start flipping it on you and being defensive and attacking you, you kind of just fold and give up. So we got to build capacity of having what we call, that difficult conversation, right? That coaching conversation. So we might have to role play that, right? So how we build a bridge to that and work through that. And how I did was we role played in scenarios with each other. I had weekly meetings with my administrator staff. I'll give you another little gem. Yes, we had the technical, what's coming up, who's in trouble, who's coming off suspension, but also I had meetings that were just about instruction with my administration team. And I held it sacred to say, that's cool. It sometimes it would creep in and be like, oh, but so-and-so just got it. I was like, cool. That's in 45 minutes, or that's a different meeting. Right now, we're talking about instruction. So having that regular time there allows us to build the capacity, especially with assistant principals, because if we don't cultivate that, at some point, you're going to be in that chair, and you're going to be a leader. We got to prepare you for doing it justice, right? For doing it in a dynamic way. And as a principal, it's my goal to build their capacity just like we build the capacity for everybody else.
Love it. Let me give you another barrier. Same
Right.
question with the assistant principal. This assistant principal has this barrier, and life on the job is not pleasant. I don't enjoy going to work, and here's the reason: because my relationship with my principal has broken down.
Yeah.
My principal doesn't treat me as a professional. My principal, I don't think necessarily has any love for me. We just coexist in the building, but I'm not growing. I'm not learning. I'm not being exposed to anything leadership in that building. So I've got a serious barrier. It's impacting me adversely mentally, my mental health, my emotional health. I don't like being in that building.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I mean, get up out of here as soon as you can. If that's the case and you know that much, find a way to get up out of here. Now do it professionally, because in the middle of the year, unless it is mental health for real, is not advisable, right? So find a way to get up out of here, because you know if a place is going to be about your growth and your development or not. So if it's not, don't keep banging your head against the wall. You don't gotta do that. There's kids everywhere. Now that may take some movement and some flexibility, but like, what would you rather have, right? A daily experience like that or something different. Now, while you're there, find a place where you can operate, right? I was working with a school leader once, and like they only had access to this little slice of the school. I said, well, then let's make that one sing, Let's get it popping in that area. I can only work with the 9th grade team. Great, let's get them going. If that's a place where you can get moving, use your leadership to develop there, because especially if you're gonna bust a move and go somewhere else, you better have something to put on your resume that says that you're ready to move and have that place move or request that thing, right? So you can make certain things work. Now, if you don't have access to anything at all, then you got to negotiate. Well, look, I know we got this thing. Let me work on this little slice right here and get it going so well that you could use it to promote yourself, to move on, or maybe you change that principal's mind when they see kind of what you're doing, right? So get creative, man. I mean, don't feel like stuff is stacked against you, and if it is, then get up out of there, man. It's kids in schools everywhere, and they might be more receptive somewhere else, and most likely are.
Yeah. Hey, fam out there, I'm looking at these comments, and y'all are giving like major compliments to Joe on his content. So do me a favor, don't hoard the information for yourselves. Hit that share button, hit that retweet button, hit that repost button, tag somebody, text somebody, call somebody, let them know that Joe Truss is in the building right? And he's dropping the knowledge, right? Let him know that, right? And again, hit that like button, right? Even if you dislike it, like it anyway. But from looking at these comments, y'all liking this, right? So let another colleague like it with you, right? So hit that like button for me. Hey Joe, let's stay with this assistant superintendent. It's widely known that I say the assistant principalship is the most misunderstood and underutilized position in all of education. I say it everywhere I go. I write books about it. But the fact of the matter is, we also know that there are principals out here who thoroughly know how to utilize their assistant principals, right? There are assistant principals out here who are well-rounded and understand their role beyond the traditional disciplinarian, bus duty, cafeteria duty. They're doing so much. But I want to focus on that principal who is misusing and underutilizing the assistant principal. And now this person is not well-rounded. And if this person is up for a promotion, this person is not ready to step into the principalship because all they know is discipline, cafeteria duty, and bus duty. I want you to put on your normal coaching hat and coach up a principal for us right quick. Let us know what this principal should be doing toward preparing this AP for either the principalship one day or just being a great assistant principal.
All right. So I think one is we got to bring leadership into the space. Okay?
Hey, Joe, time out real quick because I just want to. Marco wants your contact information. Hey, Marco, just stay there. Don't leave us because we're gonna give you everything you need. In fact, I'll do it before we end. But we're going to give you everything you need. So just stay there, right? All right. Very good. Go ahead, Joe.
Appreciate it. So one, we got to bring leadership into this because if folks are familiar, if you're not familiar, look up this concept of technical versus adaptive problems, work, and leadership and moves, okay? The technical versus the adaptive, okay? Once we're aware of that, then we're like, oh man, there's all these untapped things that are adaptive skills. Maybe I don't got them. Maybe I got to build them too. But we need to build the adaptive skills of our people, ourselves too, teachers too. Okay. So a second piece is the leadership piece is they have to have something that they're leading. You learn by doing. Yes, you learn by seeing, of course. But we got to give them something to work on, maybe a lot. So yes, we can give them technical things, bus duty, cafeteria duty, re-entry meetings, all that kind of stuff. Yes, but they got to have something that they are wrestling with, working on, leading. That could be meetings, that could be teams. So in my building, all of the assistant principals, they had leadership teams that they led or sat on and coached the leader of that team. There's so many skills. Now, as a principal, when I got my admin meeting with them, we get to talk like, well, how's your team doing? How are you leading that team? How's your facilitation skills going there? What kind of problem that came up there? Let's work through that. Let's talk about that together. It don't matter if they're just hearing me reflect on the things that I'm doing. They got to have some doing that's happening, right? They got to have some actions that they're working on. Now, that's like a team lead. So we had a climate leadership team. One of my APs led that. We had an instructional leadership team. One of my APs led that. We had an equity leadership team. I was working on that. Some years I didn't do any of those. I just did the big staff meeting. There has to be time when our assistant principals are in front of our staff doing leadership. Not just rolling out some stuff, not just reading some memo bullet points. We got to do a little bit of that too. It's better if it's just in an email, okay? But there got to be some time when they are standing up there leading some stuff. Now come with May too, because it could be a good day, it could be a bad day. They got to get some smoke and some eat too, and be able to kind of bob and weave through that and have the art form. I saw somebody pop up on a little comment. They got to know the art of facilitation too. Now, you don't learn that skill if you are never in front of the staff in that kind of capacity. Now, what's cool is now I get to coach them in that process too. I get to model it, debrief with them. We can play these games of what might go wrong, what went wrong, how we get better the next time, what we do the next time, what you going to do the next time. Then they're building those skills with that. They got to hold something too. Like, I can't just hoard all the power. Like, they got to manage a partnership too between the school and someone else. So it's really like we're just giving them a little bit of things to work on, so that way they got some experience, right? But the short answer, brother, is they got to lead something and build skills associated with that. But we got to give them a little bit of that. It's not a lot. We gotta talk about it together.
Yeah, I love it. They actually got to lead. Got to free them up, and they got to be out there doing something, not just theoretical. I love it. You work with superintendents, Joe, and other central office leaders in a consulting capacity. For this question, I want to be the superintendent. Let me be the superintendent who either never led a school, or it's been so long since I've led a school, right? So I'm completely detached from it in this regard. Talk to me as superintendent on how I can better support principals from the vantage point of the superintendent.
Man, I think the first is practical that's going to get you to that answer is you got to go to the schools, man. Principal got to be in the classroom. Central office people got to be in the schools. Not every day. You can't be there every day and do all the aspects of your job. You got to go to the schools, but not on a political, stump speech, photo op. Yeah, you got to do some of that too. But like it's simple. If you go to the schools and you look at what's happening in the schools, but you show up without the status, you're like, no, I'm just here. I'm just here to just feel what's going on, to talk to some people and see what I see. If you do that, that's going to keep you honest to a certain extent. You're going to find where the bright spots are. You're going to find where the fires are, right? Now you couple that with, like, I saw the right intentions there. You couple that with that right list of what I want to see too. Because if I got that list of I want to see kids moving, talking, celebrating each other, making connections, exploring their identity. If I know that as a superintendent and I'm going to classrooms, now I'm going to see if I see it or I don't see it. Now I can have some conversations later on. So one is you got to do that. And once you do that, we talk about the leader being a symbol, then everybody in the central office will be like, damn, I got to go to the classrooms too. There's this powerful practice of shadow a student. It was like this big trend for a while. Even though it ain't at the top of our social media feeds, one of the best things you can do, spend your day shadowing the student all day. Bus ride to the pickup line. You do that. I did that every year for my 6 years as a principal. Best PD I ever did. Sitting in them little hard little chairs, seeing what it's like, being asked to talk or not to talk, whatever that is, right? So when a superintendent does that and we ask our people to do that, then they're like, man, I gotta have some congruence from what I'm talking about all the way to there, right? Now, along with that, back on the superintendent piece is we got to put the school leaders at the center of the work, as opposed, now it may sound mean, as opposed to the central office leaders. You got to make a decision. Because when the school leaders feel like their work are not central to what's going on, it don't matter. They feel like they're on an island, right? So we got to lift up the work that they're doing. And let's see, the last point I want to hit on. We want to get everybody in the same room. Okay. In a lot of school districts in big organizations, things are very fractured. Those people talk to those people, those people, those people. But when we get everybody in the same room, we can have the same conversation, right? I was with a school district. I was doing some work with their instructional coaches. And I was like, okay, well, let me just show up to the meeting when all the coaches are there. And they're like, we don't really bring all the coaches together. And I was like,
that's the problem.
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean you don't do that? And then some of the PD I started doing with them was the first time they had all the behavioral coaches and instructional coaches and the special ed coaches and the new teacher coaches even in the same room, and the multilingual coaches. I said, we should all need to be having the same conversation. Superintendent could pull that off, along with the administrators too, right? Like, get them in the same room so we know what it is that we are doing together, right? Yeah. Okay, last one.
You good?
Vision statement. A superintendent has to articulate a vision, not just a strategic plan, not just what goes on the website. That's important too, but this piece of like, who am I as a leader? I got this template that I made and I've done with a bunch of times, and normally I do it with the principals, but I had some places where the superintendent, they wrote their own vision statement, their own anti-racist, equity, and inclusive vision statement. When they write that down and they articulate that to their people, then their people are like, I need one of those too. I need to articulate that as well. So it's really the alignment, that parallel reciprocity amongst all those things, right?
Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, to the fam out there, I got 3 more questions to throw at Joe. and then we'll go to our rapid fire. But before we do, I do want you all to have his contact information for those of you that do have to run at some point. So Joe, so that you all know, Joe is a consultant. He's a speaker. He's a keynoter. He does all that work. Joe, how did they get in contact with you? How do they follow you on social media? Give them everything you want them to have.
Yeah, man. Truss Leadership is the name of the consulting group and the business group, and that's where it is everywhere. Truss Leadership on Instagram, LinkedIn. I got an old X Twitter somewhere that I don't really use. Trussleadership.com. So everything is on there. And info at Truss Leadership or trussleadership@gmail. But you'll find me.
And those of you who are using your phone and maybe you can't see the spelling of his name, that's not Trust as in Trust, but that's Trust as in Truss, right? Because I know when I'm looking at my phone, sometimes I can't see these names and so forth. I'm too old to see the small print, So Truss Leadership, and you can reach out to him, and I know he'll be ready and eager to come to your school, your district, your conference, your institute, your academy, whatever it is that you have, and come out and share this knowledge, not for the 2 hours we do it on Saturday, but for the full day or the opening keynote, whatever it is. Get in touch with them, and we'll do this again at the end. Let me go through these real quick. We talk about school culture a lot, Joe, in terms of students. But there's another aspect that we need to look at as well, and that's staff. And there's so many different moving parts and dimensions in terms of what that school culture that staff culture might look like, or what it is not. So I'm not going to get into all that kind of specificity here. But my question to you is, what are your thoughts in terms of what a principal, what a AP, because I don't want to leave them out on any of this, the assistant principal. What are your thoughts on leadership of some of the first steps toward ensuring that staff culture is conducive to that school being what we want it to be in terms of it's functioning as a high performing school?
Yeah. So the first thing I'll say, I'm gonna go back to literally my first summer PD, my first year being a principal. Okay. I used the same reading, and I'll give it here just because it's a golden one. There's this concept called Discourse 1 and Discourse 2. I learned about it when I was in my principal program, and it's about how we talk in schools, about students, about the work, about our struggles. Discourse 1 and Discourse 2, a classic article called Changing the Discourse in Schools, Eubanks. I started there because I wanted to make sure that our staff knew that our Discourse 1 ways of talking were problematic, and we're trying to aspire to have more Discourse 2 ways of talking, right? One quick example of that is looking deeper beneath the surface versus looking at the surface, right? Often we look at the surface versus what's underneath the surface. When our staff know that there's ways of talking, it starts to shift the culture. In that case, we read the Discourse 2 reading. We had that conversation as staff. We're talking 1st August PD in my school. Now we can talk about, we actually want to make it an agreement to try to stay in Discourse 2, right? That changes the culture because we have a different mindset, but also now we got to hold each other accountable to shifting from blaming to like taking ownership, right? So these things like this shift the culture of the building, because then we can have agreements to say we agree to do something different. Another piece I'll add to that is we got to bring the personal in, the people's personal, the student personal, the personal narratives, the student stories. We got to get from that high level data, right? That satellite data to the street data, right? To that personal experience data. This helps us kind of get there. We got to get back in touch with our emotions, right? Because sometimes we do this work as technicians in a very robotic kind of way and separate ourselves from our emotions. We need to tap into the emotions, harness those to kind of do what we need to be doing, right? And the biggest way we shift the culture is we got to embody that as the leader. I got to make some mistakes and own some of my mistakes and apologize to my staff and eat crow, whatever it is. Like I got to do that at some point so they see that that is okay for them to do as well, right? So all of that shifts the culture, right? But we can't do all that with PowerPoints. We can't do all that with memos. It's experiential. We got to be in the same room, like I was saying before. We got to be having some discussion. We got to move. We got to get outside. All that stuff is wrapped up in how we shift the culture so that we can do something different with the new culture.
Love it. Love it. I'm almost done. You ever made a leadership decision that you regretted? And if so, what did you learn from it?
Yeah, I mean, I think back in my earlier years of being a principal, I knew I loved project-based learning because I did it as a teacher, deeper learning, project-based learning, and I made this decision that we were going to do it as a school without getting enough input. Like I knew that it's good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that everybody knew why we were moving in that direction. I didn't necessarily get enough people involved. So when we first kind of rolled out some of these big shifts, people were just like, man, this is moving too fast. We don't know what's going on. We don't know where we're headed. We weren't involved in this. So like literally someone said to me, which was hard for me to process, it was like, you trying to do revolutionary stuff in this like dictator kind of way, in this fascist kind of way. And I was like, that's kind of deep, you know, like I got good intentions. I'm trying to do good stuff, but I'm somehow mandating good intentions. Which, you know, when you're in a rush, you're like, that makes sense, but you're just like, but the experience for people was that it came across in a fascist kind of way, right? In an inhuman kind of way, right? In an oppressive kind of way. And I was like, damn, I was like, okay, I gotta figure that out. So then it was like, how do I create these conditions so that we together choose to move in this direction that is good for children, good for us as adults, and we got shared ownership of it, right? So that it's slower, it's more methodical, right? But I had to be like, damn, like how do I learn all this, like, you know, revolutionary thought or whatever? But I'm coming in here showing up and my staff feeling like I'm oppressing them. How do I manage that and avoid that as we do other changes?
Yeah. I know I made some myself, and some I regret, some I stand on. You know, it just depends on what it is, but you know, to the fam out there, do know you will make mistakes.
Yeah.
But what matters most is what you learn from the mistake that you make. You know, what is the learning? How are you growing from the mistake, whether it's egregious or simple or anything in between? But we're going to make mistakes. You know, and that's including when you're seasoned, a seasoned veteran. You can make mistakes, right? But what are you going to learn from the mistake and thereby grow from it and be better than you were before you made it? Good stuff. We got one more. I want to end on a bang. You know, we talk about the politics of education, and I also put that in the category of the politics of leadership. And there's politics that come along with it. It could be politics relative to your staff. It could be politics relative to parents, students, community, curriculum, right? It just a wide variety of things. What I want to ask you to do is just talk to the fam out there about the significance of being conscious of the politics of leadership and thoughtful about the ability to navigate it. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we gotta know that everyone's bringing certain ideas about leaders to this work, including us. Now that could be baggage, that could be scars that come from parenting, that come from teachers, that come from the last principal that they had, right? So we got to know that, you know, some of that's psychological, but it shows up politically, right? Because people act on that. So we got to know that people are bringing something to that interaction, so that we can be mindful of that. Kind of try to name it. I understand that may have been the experience. This is not what we're trying to do here. Now, when I think larger politically, like societal, right, we got to just acknowledge that we're all being affected by this. So we can't turn it all off. We can't pretend that it's not having an impact. We got to give our staff some safe place to be able to have some conversations to make sense of it, because they're tasked with doing the same thing for young people. So if we don't model healthy discourse, reflection, honesty, critical thinking with our staff, we're not preparing them to do the same thing for young people, right? So we want to make sure that we're mirroring that thing, because I can't teach all the classes as an administrator, right? But I got my staff, so I can create certain things in that space for them to navigate that, and also to be transparent with like some of my difficulties too, of like the things that I'm still working on. When I can voice that, then they can kind of share that too, like, hey, I'm trying to sort this stuff out too. And then at some point, how you navigate it is you got to have some North Star. You got to, yes. It could feel like the world is on fire and we're in a tornado, but I know when I pull my compass out, it's pointing to the north. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. I know when I look up, I see the star there. Like, so at some point, but if we've never named that North Star, much harder to do. So you got to identify that North Star earlier, so that way when you hit that crisis, that tornado, that flood that happens, that fight at the graduation, because I broke up a fight at my graduation one time.
Wow.
When that happens, at some point, I got to be like, woo, I got to be like, okay, boom. We still going this way. Do you know what I mean? Like, and our people need to know that collectively, right? Because I may be spinning, somebody be like, hey, Joe, we're going to keep the main thing. We're going in this direction. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's a distraction, right? Like, so that keeps us kind of centered as we're moving. And that North Star is going to point towards freedom, justice, liberation for our most marginalized, our most oppressed students. Like, that's where we're going. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Everything else is going to sort itself out.
Love it. Love it. That's and see that I'm glad you were transparent to say that there was a fight at a graduation. I mean, anything, you know, leadership is leadership. Anything can happen anywhere, any day. But that's leadership, fam. So, you know, we deal with it. We deal with our emotions surrounding it, and then we move forward. That's what we do. Let's jump into these rapid fire. These rapid fire are one sentence or one word or anything in between questions. Just give me a sentence max, no comma, and we go 21 questions real quick. Right. Do you feel that education is on the right path for underserved children?
No.
Do you feel that true equity can occur in America's schools for Black, brown, and other underserved students?
Has to.
Does Joe Truss work contribute to the progress we desperately need?
Man, I sure hope so.
If you could do a reset on your life, would your line of work be different or the same?
Man, no, I love what I've done, and I love what I do.
Why do you continue to do this work?
For the children, and I want the people in the future to look back and be like, you know, he put some work in, you know.
What fires you up particularly within the work you do?
Student voice.
What do you dislike about the work you do or have done?
Power hoarding of adults.
What has been your greatest victory in your work thus far?
Visiting classrooms, man.
What has been your greatest mistake in your work thus far?
Moving too fast sometimes.
What has been your greatest challenge in your work thus far?
White supremacy.
Yeah, I agree. Are you proud of your first year as an assistant principal?
Yeah.
Are you proud of your first year as a principal?
Also, yes.
Who inspires you in your work?
Bettina Love.
There you go. Just we were just in the same space recently in Rochester. What book do you recommend for our fam out there this afternoon?
Oh man. We'll go. Boom. Boom. I'll go. You already said it though. I got
there you go.
Autobiography, okay?
That's it. What do you want to accomplish that you haven't accomplished yet?
Man, I want to see Black students winning, man. want to see the numbers go up.
Yeah, yeah. Are you satisfied with where you are professionally right now?
No,
Is there another gear to your leadership, or are you in peak performance right now?
it's definitely another gear.
What would you say to an assistant principal out there who continues to face closed doors to the principalship?
Cut a door open or go through the window, man, like Tupac said.
What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership passion?
Talk to some students and go read one of them old journals you wrote.
Hey, there you go. What would you say to a leader out there who's lost their leadership confidence?
Remind yourself something you have confidence in, and dissect why you feel confident about that thing that you do feel confident.
And finally, if Joe Truss was a word in a dictionary, what would be your definition?
Relentless.
Relentless. Let me be the first. Now I can't be the first because they already started, but let me pretend to be the first to applaud you for a dynamite session. The reason I said they beat me is because we have a ritual here that you may be aware of, because I know you've been on here before. But we ask our fam if today's session resonated with you, if you found the content useful, if you could implement it, if you could take it back, or if it was just good, give us your favorite emojis. But they started. So for those of you that do not know the ritual, keep them emojis coming, y'all. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. If you found today's session to be beneficial, useful, that you could implement a lot of what you heard or some of what you heard today in your leadership or your future leadership, because I know we got aspiring leaders on here as well, then keep sending us your favorite emojis. I see them. I appreciate it. And let me get my emoji. I got my Josh Gibson on today, Homestead Grays, Pennsylvania. Man hit over 800 home runs, including the home run out of Yankee Stadium that went right to the street in the Bronx. So I got my bat, my Louisville Slugger. And certainly every time you came to the plate, you knocked it out just like Josh Gibson used to do it, man. Great stuff, man. This was powerful. I gotta say it was powerful stuff. But we were only on for 2 hours. Talk to the folks about how they can get you for the whole day or get that dynamite keynote. How can they reach you once again?
Yeah. Much appreciation to you and everybody who joined this, and everybody fighting the fight. We can't do it alone. We need all y'all. Kids need all y'all. So appreciate you for doing it. TrussLeadership.com, Truss Leadership on LinkedIn or Instagram, info@trussleadership.com. Truss has 2 S's, TRUSS, or trussleadership@gmail.com. I put a little chat message to you, Kafele. Just drop that in the comments so folks can see it. That's a link to
I did, but for some reason mine go right to YouTube. I don't know how to switch that so I can make them go to Facebook. I guess I'm gonna need Sheikah Houston out there to tutor me on that. But I put them at the they're on the YouTube side. So folks, go to YouTube at AP and New Principals Academy and go to the live comments once they come up, and you'll see that link that Joe wanted me to put in.
Yeah, but just that'll have different services, but you see all the stuff on my website too: PDs, keynotes, walkthroughs, coaching, you name it. We need the support everywhere. I know I needed it when I was a principal or an assistant principal, so I'm just trying to provide that support now. Do it coast to coast, and I love it, man. It is what's needed. I don't care if it's not popular anymore. Data says we still need it. Kids say we still need it. So when they get their act together, we still gonna be doing the work. So if I can support you, I would love to.
Love it. You know, you mentioned Bettina. Her whole crew has been on here. Bettina doesn't like doing this work on Saturdays. You know, that's her downtime, family time. So I don't want to record. I just don't record these. So we're gonna get her on here. It's just a matter of when, but she will be on here. I have to have her on here. But you know, Goldie's been on here. Yolanda Sealy Ruiz has been on here. Ed Emden has been on here. You know, so many others. I got to get Dina on here too. But you know, she'll be here. She'll be here.
Beautiful.
But let me say to you, man, once again, thank you. You know, this was
Thank
this
you.
powerful, and we definitely gonna do it again because there's so much more to talk about. Let me put you backstage for a second, and then I'm gonna bring you back up offline. Let me close us out. So to the fam out there, matter of fact, let me bring you back. Hey, Joe, any parting words to the fam before you leave?
Man, just don't let these times take you off your path and let you forget what the North Star is, because you got your own North Star. And you may be leading people in that way. They're gonna need you to lead them in that way and support them. It's rough out here though.
Yeah.
So let's be clear. But we know what direction we're supposed to be moving in, and your people need you. You need yourself. We need each other, but your people need you. That's leadership. Just stay in it.
That's
Stay
it.
in it.
That's it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Hey, fam, I'm getting ready to sign off. But let me say to you again, thanks for being here. For week 285. Looking forward to 286 next week with Arlette Mello Johnson. She's the former Connecticut Assistant Principal of the Year, who's now a principal. Dr. Sonia Matthew, who is the current Maryland Assistant Principal of the Year, and Donovan Small, who's a Jersey assistant principal who's doing big things, including having his own podcast. I'm have the three of them on. Even though Arlette Mello Johnson is now a principal, we're gonna talk assistant principal leadership once again for the entire session next week. So it's going to be relevant for everybody from the superintendent or board of ed members on down. Right? I don't want you to think that this is just assistant principal talk. This is just three assistant principals talking, but we're going to be talking to AP leadership, but folks who lead them, such as principals, folks who are at the central office, folks who are at the board level, are going to need to hear this conversation. I'll be doing that from Los Angeles, and then the week after, I'll be in Jamaica celebrating the birthday. And but we'll give you more on that. So thanks for being here today for 285. Next Saturday, 10 o'clock, Sean Hurt, followed by Create and Educate. Dr. Sheikah Houston, Dr. Tammy Taylor. These are all Facebook live at 10 o'clock for Sean Hurt, 10:30 for Create and Educate, 10:55 for me. I'm flirting with that 11 o'clock start, but we'll give you information about that. Just put it in the back of your mind, because I don't want to switch to 11 and then y'all think I'm not coming on because I'm not on at 10:57 or something, right? And then PGP podcast, Josh Tovar, Dr. Madi Moreno. Sundays at, I believe, 6 o'clock Eastern time, right? Make sure if you don't have a copy, get yourself a copy. What is my value instructionally to the teachers I supervise? If you don't have a copy, just get it now. Let's go right to Amazon, get yourself a copy. Thank me later, right? Subscribe to the AP and New Principals Academy YouTube channel. Once again, subscribe. Don't just go to it. Hit the button that says subscribe, and then it'll give you an option to hit the notification. The notification bell, which lets you know when I go live. So make sure you do both of those things. Visit principalcafele.com. And by the way, again, I'm not going to go into all this, but if you make it to Washington, D.C., make sure that you check out the Milken Museum, right? And check out that exhibit they have of me. It's a panel, but it's I'm in love with it. So make sure you check that out as well. If you're in DC, right on Pennsylvania Avenue, near the other space, right? But check that out, right? And then lastly, as I always conclude, your diet. That's important, y'all. You can't lead with a poor diet, right? It's going to catch up to you. How do I know? Because I had a heart attack, right? So I'm qualified to tell you that. It wasn't one of the hereditary things. It wasn't one of those things. It was my main artery was clogged 100%. That was my diet. McDonald's was in my artery. Burger King, Wendy's, all that mess that I used to eat was in my main artery, and it almost killed me on May 1st, 2015 at the University of Miami. So on a stage with a mic in my hand. So make sure that your diet is satisfactory. You're getting the exercise in. I do a lot of miles outside in these Jersey City streets, or when I'm on the road in the hotels, in the fitness room. I do not get any enjoyment out of that whatsoever. I call it the worst time of my day. But when I'm done, I feel good about myself that I got it in. But for the past, I've been doing this now for 10 years since the heart attack. All these miles I put in, I do not enjoy it, but I gain satisfaction once I'm finished, right? So make sure you're getting that in. And then lastly, your virus precautions. It's a lot out here, man. Whew. It's a lot out here, and there's a Health and Human Services secretary giving you some bad advice, right? So, or Secretary of Health and Human Services, whatever that title is, giving you some bad advice. So make sure that you are taking care of yourselves. Other than that, have a great week. Have an extraordinary week. Have your best week yet. Peace. Peace. Thumbs up. Cock that fist all the way back. Count to 3 with me. 1, 2, 3. Bam! I see y'all next Saturday out of LA. We're going to have a strong session building on the one we had today. Peace.